Matthew McConaughey making the rounds lately, saying some pretty surprising stuff considering that he's from Hollywood. It's surprising to see a celebrity say these things because sadly, you kind of put your career in jeopardy when you talk about some stuff like this, which honestly shouldn't really be that big of a deal. You should be allowed to say how you feel about certain issues, but that's not the way it is. That's not the way it is when you're coming out of Hollywood like that. You have to have the correct way to speak about these issues, or they get rid of you. And it's surprising to see, like, for the longest time, he was really cringy, just did nothing but rom-coms and stuff, and eventually he walked away from that, which, like I said in my last video, where I mistakenly said Ridgemont High, he was in Dazed and Confused. Just had a little bit of a moment there, but Dazed and Confused, U571, did a lot of really cool old movies, and then he just did nonstop rom-coms. He got typecasted into them, made probably a boatload of money doing it, and then he decided, okay, I'm going to go do real movies now, and he turned them down, and he stopped doing those films, which I think was good for his legacy in the movies, unless they cancel him, which could happen. I want to start here because this is where he first got my attention, where he went on an interview, and the reporter asked him, oh, would you please talk about Donald Trump? And he said, I don't want to talk about that. Not unless I have a longer forum and nothing I said gets taken out of context and I can, answer things clearly in a long-term way. Like, I don't want to touch on that one. I don't want to get things taken out of context. So he shut it down. Where normally, if this was like, Mark Ruffalo or somebody else in Hollywood, they said, yeah, Orange Man bad. It would have been the typical stuff, the brave and stunning celebrities that take that hard anti-TDS stance that everyone knows, that everybody in Hollywood does. Well, he chose not to do that. And I thought that was pretty interesting because just doing nothing will get you canceled. Chris Pratt can tell you that. I've done a couple videos on this talking about Chris Pratt. Now he was pretty much crucified for not attending a Avengers fundraiser. And the funny thing about that was he was never even asked to go. They never said, hey, yo, Chris, want to come and hang out with us over here at this Avengers fundraiser for the Biden campaign? He said nothing because he was never asked. And because he was never asked, because he never even spoke on it, and he really is apolitical, at least to the public. He never talks about his politics. He was crucified for a week straight on Twitter. And that's crazy. And a lot of that has to do, I personally believe, with his religion. And now Matthew McConaughey is coming out and pretty much confirming that when he went on the Joe Rogan podcast. And he talks about that. And it really ties in well with that Chris Pratt stuff because I think, they're trying to, listen, if you have these values, you're supposed to shut up and not talk about it. That's really what's going on there. You're not supposed to say you have these values or you have these political beliefs. You need to shut up or get out. And if you get loud about it, they'll kick your ass out. I really think that the Chris Pratt situation might have exposed that, especially when you have the full context that he was never even asked to go. And I think he would have turned it down if he would have been asked to go, regardless. But it's just funny that he didn't even get asked. He must have woke up one day and said, what is everyone so mad at me about? And looked into it. It's like, I wasn't even asked to go to this fundraiser. But he doesn't want to even say that because he would have had to say, then they'd say, well, would you have gone? And he would have said no. And then they're just going to keep going, okay, it's justified. And you have people like Grace Randolph, who magically works for Rooster Teeth now, who call themselves the Roost. She's like, I'm not touching this, but I'm going to touch it and talk about it. He needs to do damage control. Why does he need to do damage control, Grace Randolph? He didn't do anything. So disturbing. So Matthew McConaughey dropping some stuff over on the Joe Rogan report and confirming a lot of this and talking about the bias in Hollywood and how these people have just gone so far left that it's a joke. And McConaughey comes out and says that, hey, there's a lot of people that have these values, but they're not going to come out and say so because they're afraid to get canceled. Pratt doesn't really come out and say much because he's afraid to get canceled. He doesn't even have to do anything and they're trying to cancel him. So here's what McConaughey said during one of his about an acceptance speech on Joe Rogan Experience. He said, I have had, and I won't throw any people under the bus, but I have had moments where I was on stage receiving an award in front of my peers in Hollywood. And there were people in the crowd that I have prayed with before dinners many times. And when I thanked God, I saw some of those people go to clap, but then notice that my bad on my resume, and then sit back on their hands, McConaughey explained. I've seen people read the room and go, whoa, that wouldn't bode well for me in the future if for getting a job or you're getting votes or what have you, he continued. I have seen that. I've witnessed that. I don't judge them for it. I just wish you know that it seems like a silly argument. Now, when he's talking about getting votes, getting the job is pretty clear cut if they want to get a job in Hollywood. Getting the votes, that's for awards. That's what he's referring to there. You have to get votes, particularly with the Academy. So that's what he's referring to there. And he goes on to say, one of the things that some people in our industry, not all of them, but there's some that go so far, that go to the left so far, that go to the liberal left side so far that it's so condescending and patronizing to 50% of the world that need the empathy that the liberals have, he added. It's time to, and then they point out that he went on to say right here that no matter who wins the election, that people just need to move on and we can get back to a little bit of normal. But I thought this was really interesting. He's pretty much coming out and saying what we all know, that, you know, if you have any kind of conservative values or if you're religious, that you're not very welcome in Hollywood. And I really do think that the Chris Pratt stuff, not a lot of people really talked about that angle, that it seems like it's just not welcome there. And it's pretty obvious by a lot of the stuff in Hollywood content. You know, they're openly will mock Jesus, for example. They'll say like, and I'm not hating on it because I think some of it is fine. I mean, everything should be open to jokes, right? But you'll see like openly a lot of shows, a lot of movies mocking Christian values, but any other religion, particularly Abrahamic religion, is untouched. You're not allowed to have fun with those. It's only the one, and maybe that's because it's the mainstream, and that I guess is an argument you could make. But I think people should at least be allowed to have their views and not be canceled. But that's just not where we're at, and that's just how deranged Hollywood has gotten lately. Anyway, it's nice to see somebody talk about it. I mean, it's crazy that him just talking about this puts his career in jeopardy, but I think at this point, I'm sure Matthew McConaughey has FU money, like several other people that have spoken out, and if he doesn't really get big-time work anymore, I'm pretty sure he's a smart man, has saved and invested a lot of his money, so he probably doesn't care if he doesn't get too much work anymore. But it's sad that he might not just because he's talking about this stuff. I'm surprised Twitter hasn't come for him yet, and I'm sure they might. We'll see if things go. They get bored. You know, maybe he's on their slow news day list, right? Oh, let's go after Matthew McConaughey today. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. Also, throw a like up, share the video. Make sure you still subscribe. Subscribe if you're new. Hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. Also, if you want to help support the channel, check out my Teespring store. There's a link in the description. You can find some merchandise in there that you might want to check out.